Hey guys, it's Sandro here, and today's video is a look at how I clean and restore a car engine bay in need of some love. I've shown a number of engine bay details on this channel, mostly as part of longer detailing vlogs, but I thought I'd do a more dedicated engine bay video on this car, which was actually in for a comprehensive pre-sale detail. As you can hopefully see, the engine bay on this 25-year-old Nissan Skyline R34 has seen better days. There's certainly many ways you can approach it, but I'm going to show you how I'd personally tackle this engine bay on this particular job, which I hope helps some of you out. So let's get to it. It's important to look at the bigger picture when detailing, and the first thing that caught my eye was the inner bonnet area that just looked awful and would greatly detract from the rest of the engine bay if not addressed. It sits over the engine bay, so working with gravity on your side, it's best to treat it first. I initially started by masking the engine bay to protect it while cleaning the upper inner bonnet. Then I removed the insulated trim and some rubber molds to be able to clean the area better. These days I trust my own judgment, meaning I make decisions on behalf of my clients, and in my opinion, this cover looks awful and is not salvageable, so it should be left off or replaced. Next I applied an alkaline-based degreaser and allowed it to dwell for a few minutes to start breaking down the surface grease and grime. When tackling badly soiled areas, it's best to remove that contamination safely and respectfully in layers. If you try and remove it all in one go, it tends to be overly aggressive on the paint and trims, creating unnecessary cleaning damage, and in many cases is also unsuccessful. There's decades of dirt and contamination build-up here, so you need to be realistic that it's going to take a little time to remove it safely. I then used my Tornador air tool with a light degreaser solution to further inject compressed air and my chemical solution over the surface to remove as much contamination in a safe, touchless manner. So right here, I'm just looking to remove that first layer of looser grime so that when it comes to removing the more heavily bonded dirt and grease beneath, it's going to be a safer and more effective process. After a thorough rinse to remove the standing chemical residue and flush off that top layer of contamination, it was then time for a physical clean. For this I used a combination of my original degreaser as well as a tire remover with a smaller detailing brush. You'll also find that sometimes it gets hard to see your progress with all the grime being lifted. So it's important to rinse the area now and then so you can see the areas that need further treatment as you go. I personally find that for areas like badly soiled engine bays, door jambs, wheel wells and so on, a combination of alkaline and tar removers with some brush agitation works extremely well and finds that perfect balance of being effective, efficient and safe, which is why I use this combination. But I also want to be clear that although I have my reasons for working the way I do and using products I use, you don't need to follow exactly what I'm doing here. There's lots of other methods, chemicals and tools that'll work just fine. So take what you want from this video and adapt it to work in your own world. The last point I want to add here is that you can get really bogged down with chasing every single last bit of grime on something so intricate as an engine bay. My goal here is pretty consistent with all things detailing, which is a 95% plus contamination or defect free result. So try not to get too sidetracked or slowed down with chasing a 100% perfect result, which realistically doesn't exist. If there's a spot or two that needs more attention, it's sometimes best to keep moving forward as you can always revisit them later on. Next was masking any potentially water sensitive areas. So disconnecting or masking the battery terminals, exposed electrical connectors, alternator, distributor and so on. Now just like previously cleaning the inside upper bonnet, the engine bay was also treated in much the same manner. I used the same alkaline degreaser for the initial chemical pre-treatment, allowed it to dwell and then followed up with my Tornador air tool. So once again, this is all about removing that first top layer of dirt and grime in a safe touchless manner, so that when I follow up with a physical clean, my chemicals will be more effective without having to work through that looser layer of contamination, and more importantly, I won't be scuffing and scratching the paint and trims as much, with most of those particles already gone. A few differences you will see here is that I'm putting clean water into a second Tornador reservoir bottle to rinse the engine bay after cleaning. This is one of the great advantages of the Tornador. It uses very little water or liquid, making it fantastic and very safe for engine bay cleaning and rinsing. put that into perspective, a standard hose pumps out a litre of water in about 5 seconds. Yet I used less than that in chemicals and water to clean and rinse the entire engine bay in this whole process. I can also tell you that I've cleaned hundreds of engine bays with the same process, and not once have I had any water damage issues. Another difference you will see here is that I'm using a few different brushes. For the painted areas, I'm still using that same gentle boar hair brush, but for the harder plastics, metals and rubbers, I'm using a slightly stiffer and more capable brush to improve efficiency. I've also got a couple of other longer wheel brushes to clean some of the lower and harder to access areas. As needed, I'm applying both more of my alkaline and tar cleaning chemicals, rinsing sections as I go and making sure those chemicals never completely dry on the surface. This is to avoid any potential chemical etchings that are usually a result of chemicals drying. Another important tip I can share is to avoid brush cleaning the whole engine bay at once. Just focus on a small area, about 1/10 of the engine bay at a time, and shut the rest of the engine bay out. This is how you achieve a great result. Just focusing in on small areas at a time and getting them right, and then moving on. After doing a final rinse with the Tornador, I then used a separate Tornador basic air blower to dry off the engine bay, remove the masking tape, and performed a quick towel dry to soak up and level out any remaining water spots. The final step in this cleaning process was to turn the engine over and run it till operating temperature to expel and dry up any remaining trapped water. Next up was polishing the inner bonnet. Car manufacturers tend to apply very little paint in areas such as these, basically to save money. You can actually see the primer through the paint, which is never a good sign, but honestly, it's not all that uncommon. So you never want to chase any significant defect removal here, but a very light polish that removes next to no paint can still restore some gloss and shine that will make the engine bay as a whole look so much sharper and more vibrant. I used a super fine primer polish with a very light polishing foam pad to remove the chalky finish, restore some gloss and lay down some protection all in one step. Because detailing is all about the finer details, we can sometimes get too caught up with focusing in on one area a little too much. So every now and then, take a step back and try to assess your work more broadly. The polishing step actually did so much to rejuvenate the overall look of the engine bay, but it was only after finishing and taking a few steps back that I could really appreciate the impact that it had. Next was trying to further restore the many various trims and components within the engine bay. For certain plastic, rubber and even metal trims, a non-abrasive cleaner polish and sealant such as CarPro Essence Plus can be a great way to further deep clean and restore their finish without creating additional gloss. In many cases, certain plastics and rubbers will get this milky or hazy residue that brush cleaning alone won't tend to remove. So a cleaner polish can really do wonders here to lift off that aged or weathered look and restore a newer factory-like finish, at least to some degree. For the painted gloss finishes, I used the same previous primer polish to also restore gloss just like the inner bonnet area before. After giving the resins in the primer polishes time to cure and harden, the final step was applying a protective dressing to further enhance and protect the engine bay. For me, this is really one of those very satisfying and therapeutic steps where all the previous hard work really comes all together. The engine bay was divided into about a dozen areas, and section by section the dressing was thoroughly massaged over all the plastics, rubbers, metals and even painted trims. About an hour later, I used a microfiber cloth to level down the dressing, remove any high spots, and create a more factory satin finish that I personally like. So that's pretty much it, guys. A fairly comprehensive pre-sale engine bay detail that I think came out looking fantastic in the end. There's always more that can be done given the time, budget and willpower, but I can tell you that the owner was super happy to say the least, and that made all the hard work even more so rewarding. I think I'll leave it there, guys, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to say thanks and help support future content, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ccad, in which I'll leave a link to in the description box. We can now hit the thanks button below the video, and thank you everyone for the support so far. As always, I really hope you guys enjoyed and found this video helpful. Please share it with others, give it a like and comment below to show your support for this content, and I'll see you guys soon.
Open up the engine bay. Wow, yeah, it was filthy. That's amazing. Oh my god. Looks like it's never been turned on. That's so great, man. That's